market consolidation is it's like, look at it as a musical chair contest. So when consolidation starts, there are a lot of dry powder, a lot of buyers, a lot of appetite to acquire. They get critical expertise, and the valuations are the highest. But at the end of the consolidation cycle, music stops and no place is left. So there are very few buyers, multiples collapse.
Super excited about this episode today. We have Ilya Mikin, Vice President M&A at Corum Group. Ilya, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, Eitan. Good to see you. Thanks for having me. Again, great to talk to you. We haven't spoke for a while, and I know that this war in Middle East disrupt things, how we day-to-day work. But hope the world is becoming safer and quieter, and we can have this great podcast without any interruption.
Sure. I mean, this is definitely, I believe we're in the right way, right? To make a world a better place, for sure, in our region. Yeah. So Ilya, you are a very unique combination of ex-CEO, founder, CEO, exited the company. Today you lead M&A in an M&A advisory firm. Tell us a bit about your background, in our space.
Yeah, absolutely. My background initially marketing. I started at large companies like Intel, Unilever for more than 10 years. And then I moved to e-commerce. So I spent more than 10 years in e-commerce on various directorial positions, also marketing and a CEO, including large companies like iHerb.com, global leader in health and wellness. And also in parallel, I was founder of at startups, at AdTech, MarTech, FinTech startups. And I'm also as a founder and exited founder. So, I was again part of M&A teams at Unilever. I went through M&A myself as a founder. And now I'm an investment banker, so I've seen M&A from all sides of this equation. And again, happy to share, what we see at the moment in that sector, and with the M&A angle, of course.
Yes, I mean that's a big circle, right, of expertise and right and knowledge and experience in various sectors, right, both on the brand side, the agency side. Companies that are strong on advertising, companies that are strong on e-commerce and online presence, right? So, and now you do M&A. So, from the M&A perspective, how do you look at the market right now? What do you think are the major shifts that are undergoing right now?
Yeah, I think generally, I would say the approach to how to build startup is changing, right? So we used to think about building startup for last, I would say maybe 15, 20 years, is that you need to raise VC money, grow as fast as possible, no matter what is the cost, even if you are unprofitable. And then your end goal is to get to IPO. So that's a happy end, right? So you get to IPO, you make money to your investors, and that's it, end of story. Right? But the whole concept is now disrupting and changing, of course. And if you can see the dynamic of VC investments, it significantly collapsed since 2021 in many sectors, including D2C commerce. It collapsed more than 90% from 2021 peak. But at the same time, M&A deals increased and increasing. For example, M&A deals in D2C sector that I just mentioned in 2025 increased 47%. So the liquidity event for founders now is not an IPO, but obviously M&A. And what I can say again, the concept to building businesses is different. So now acquirers and even VC funds, they expect startups to be profitable, and so they expect sustainable growth with a profitable business model, with a sticky customer base. So basically build a fundamentally different business.
Yes.
So yeah.
You obviously see brands, right? And also let's say technologies or retail tech technologies, right? In the sector of retail and e-commerce, maybe social aspects or marketing in general. How do you evaluate these companies? Is it any different, these days compared to what it used to be like a few years ago?
So again, continuing my point earlier. So before, I think a few years ago, the fundamental KPI for business was the rate of growth, and it still remains important. So rate of growth, of course, is still important, but at the same time, fundamental things are changing. So when acquirers they look at the valuation of the company, so they look first of all is NRR, GRR, how low churn, and how sticky is the customer base. So that stickiness of the customers and profitability in gross margin is a cornerstone, is important. And especially why it's important also is because the players are a little bit different. So if you look who are the players now and who were the players 10 years ago, so the importance of strategic buyers was higher 10 years ago. Now, almost, again, depends on the sector, from 20% up to 40-50% is now private equity. So private equities based platforms. And private equity acquirers, they look at your EBITDA, first of all, and how repeatable is that profitability. So and that means building sustainable, healthy business. That's what drives valuation largely.
Yes.
But of course, having said that, I would say, of course, the fast pace of development of AI also changing that. So while that fundamental parameters are important, but how you are using AI, are you AI native company or are you just AI enabled company, is extremely important, and using AI is increasing your valuation by 20-30%, sometimes more. If you are AI native company, your valuation can be up to 20 EV.
Interesting. This is because the acquirer identify the company as more innovative, more looking at probably the operational side, reducing cost with AI, probably innovate through AI also on the go-to-market, right? This is the.
It's because AI is totally disrupting things how we used to do things, right? So think about agentic commerce. So agentic commerce, it's already changing the patterns how people buy or find goods online. But I can say that we don't know where it will go in 1, 2, 3 years. I mean, basically, I say 1 year ago, 18 months ago, we didn't know what is OpenClaw, right? So now OpenClaw is totally changing the way how we interact with your computer, right? So it's a new operating system.
Yes, correct. And definitely for e-commerce, we saw that valuation swung widely, right, over the last 3 years, right? Definitely after COVID, I mean, which was like a big spike, right, of valuation. We saw all these, even Amazon, brands get acquired, and this has stopped for quite a while and probably bouncing back. What do you see in terms of where are multiples today for e-commerce?
Yeah, for e-commerce, multiples significantly compressed. So even if you look at the public companies like BigCommerce, for example, so you can see that over the last few years, the multiples significantly compressed, and the same happens with non-public companies as well. So the only, I think, most significant factor is to drive your valuation up. So currently, we can say that average multiple for e-commerce company, like a traditional e-commerce company, maybe 2x. On average, I would say
2x.
2x, yeah. 2x.
EBITDA.
Yeah.
On EBITDA.
No, on
revenue.
On revenue. Yeah.
Top
on
line.
revenue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously, definitely for those who are focusing on the US market, like tariff and supply chain disruptions, right, also reshaped, e-commerce substantially during the last year, right? How do you analyze these factors, right, when you create valuations and proposals?
It's again, the factor is we are at Corum, we're always on the sell side. So our mission is to help founders to increase their valuation and provide them with the strategic advice, how they can improve the valuation, how they can improve business model, how they can improve their product positioning in the market to increase the valuation. So apply all the possible instruments and factors to increase the valuation. So we look at the business, we evaluate the missing points, we redefine the narrative, how you can position the company. But I think again, it is to understand how that company can fill the critical gap in the market in terms of the product proposition. In terms of the product itself, the high quality product, but also their relationship with customers, the stickiness of the customer base, the market share, the existing distribution channels, and to find that important, the end goal that could fill the strategic gap again with the potential buyers.
Yeah, because the right timing is important. A lot of things needs to align to make it like a viable hit for.
Yeah, it again depends. Yeah, depends on what you do, but in every market sector there is a consolidation window. So always, and I would encourage every startup founder, every company founder, is to watch closely at that consolidation window, because I'll say market consolidation is it's like, look at it as a musical chair contest. So when consolidation starts, there are a lot of dry powder, a lot of buyers, a lot of appetite to acquire. Again, critical expertise, and the valuations are the highest. But at the end of the consolidation cycle, music stops and no place is left. So there are very few buyers, multiples collapse, and it means that you can stay again with your company for a few years waiting for another consolidation cycle. So I think not to miss that consolidation and to be in the first quartile of the consolidation window is extremely important if you want to really maximize the outcome from the company you've built.
Yeah, and you also guide those companies through a process to help them, improve some of the fundamentals, and also probably in a better position to.
Yeah, that's why we take from 4 to 8 weeks for preparation. We really need to understand what's happening with the business and how can we slightly reposition it and how we can improve the proposition for the market. So. And that preparation is extremely important, because even some slight changes in the business can improve the valuation by 10, 20%, 30%, which is in many cases significant.
Yeah, it's really, really significant. And I mean, for the technology or side of the companies, like consumer tech technology, how important is the technology today? Because obviously acquirers evaluate technology, data, growth, team, right? Some of the modes. What's important today for the acquirers for when they're evaluating, consumer tech company?
Well, yeah, I would again divide it into AI and non-AI. So and for AI, there are still critical gaps. that are extremely important. So the product itself is very important in AI, right? So and especially if you hold a critical data set, which is your moat. So not the technology itself, but the proprietary data set is extremely important. For non-AI companies, the product itself, I would say, least important. There are lots of traditional SaaS products out there, but they need to prove their product market fit. I mentioned earlier that almost up to half of the current buyers are private equities and private equities platforms. So for them, the sweet spot when they are very interested in the company is, I would say, minimum 2-3 million ARR. And above. So that's a really, really minimum. And also they're asking for EBITDA, like 500,000 at least. Minimum. So as coming to your question, how product technology is important is less important. You can build now the technology with AI tools pretty fast. But what's important is how do you validate your product with the customers, and customers, as I said, are loyal to your product, and but also business model. So it should be SaaS business model, recurring revenue, and that's how you can prove that your technology is sticky and your customers are loyal to you with a low churn. That's the basic concept you need to have in mind.
And obviously the human factor, I mean, you need to have a specialist at the top of every agent or group of agents, right, to take those strategic decisions and make things, in a smaller way. So you mentioned previously around 4 to 8 weeks on preparation. What's next on a process, on a typical M&A process?
Yeah, so after the preparation, when we understood the business, we improved the proposition, business model, pricing, whatever it needs to improve. The next step is to build that, what we call armor-piercing soundbite story. So that very short, crisp story that the buyer should really understand that they like this business. And that narrative and that business story is more important than financials. How you position your business, how you position that it's critical, important for the market, is even more important than the financials behind you. Sure. And the buyers, they need to feel that fear of missing out. So if they don't buy you, they don't want their competitor to buy you, and that creates appetite. So that outreach, so that short summary. Is important. So the next step is, again, we prepare always that teaser, executive summary, and then we do outreach to vetted buyers, because we have relationship with more than 10,000 buyers, strategic, financial, and private equity-backed platforms and others. And we create that outreach, and we outreach them because we have warm, direct relationship with them. And the whole idea is to create competitive environment. That's your really most important instrument, how you can manage the whole process as you as a founder. So when you have 3, 5, 10 interested buyers, then basically you can dictate what deal parameters you want, what outcome you want. Is it payout, is it earnout, and the ratio between them, etc. So you have real leverage in this negotiation. And also you control the timing. Quite often what happens is that you build in the business, then you have inbound interest, so there is a buyer approaching you. But in this case, you don't control that process. They control you. And in many cases, these buyers also looking for your competitors and looking at other companies in the market, but you are locked only with this particular buyer for some time, because quite often they ask you to sign no shop exclusivity for a few months, and so you can't look otherwise. And the idea is to buy you below the market value. So. And so we help to turn that story, flip that story to found the control process rather than buyer control founder.
Nice. I love that definition. Usually this whole process, how long it usually takes?
Yeah, it depends. Again, we can say that hot AI startups can close the deal in few weeks. But on average, if you look at the statistics across hundreds of deals that we're doing, so on average it's 6 to 9 months. Can be longer.
Yeah.
It can be longer, of course. Depends on the case. Depends on who is the buyer. The larger is the buyer, the longer can be the process, simply because of the internal processes like board meetings, etc. But 6 to 9 months is somewhere. But again, the whole idea is to get to the best possible outcome for the founder.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about to do things as fast as possible, but to get to the best outcome. So quite often we see that, say, when we've done the whole process relatively fast, we got to the initial LOI agreement, but then the final negotiations can take 3 months, 4 months, 5 months on all the details, like liabilities, reps and warranties, risks, and all these nuances. It really can take time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things needs to align to make this happen, right? And so many things that can go wrong in these type of processes, right? So
both internally and externally, I would say.
Yes.
And I can say that quite often the deals, the M&A deals discussion, they collapse internally from the founder side on two things. So one is the deal fatigue, because founder, he needs to run the business. And it's basically day to day, but when you approach the M&A deal discussion, it's almost like a full-time job. There's a lot of nuances you need to talk to, but you don't have this time. So deal fatigue is real. So, and quite often that happens. But also, what quite often happens is misalignment between founders. So, say you're CEO and you have a co-founder CTO. And co-founder CTO, then at some point he realizes that if the company is bought, what he's going to do. So at the moment, he's a CTO of a fancy startup. So he's like a king of the hill. But after M&A deal, he will be just IT director in large company.
Yeah.
And that's a big, I would say, ego challenge.
Sure.
And so we see, and it's not rare that the CTO co-founders are against M&A deals. So internally, maybe they're not just telling that, but they find reasons not to do it. So,
Ilya, how do you see the latest growth of videos and shoppable video? We see what's happening with TikTok Shop in the US, like the next big thing that's just growing exponentially by far more than any other channel out there. What are your thoughts in terms of shoppable video, live shopping, and those videos that are used to be videos that are just creating brand awareness, and now they are very, very much focused on conversions?
Yeah, based on what I see and what I observe in development of Agentic AI, I personally became even stronger believer in shoppable video. Why? I can explain. Because they, basic staple products, ordinary products, you can buy online via agent, right? So if you need to buy a bread, if you need to buy some food, if you need to buy some basic things where you're not emotionally attached, you can buy via agent. You can just say to agent, buy me the cheapest eggs online, and he, agent will buy you. But some products are emotional, like fashion, like luxury products, like jewelry. And so these products, they need emotional decision. And shoppable video, they create that emotional layer where it's really human to human. So it's where human make decision. And I don't think that agents will replace that emotional e-commerce purchasing. While of course, so basic products will be definitely disrupted, and so I think the way how we approach now UI UX of e-commerce store will definitely change. Because agents, they don't need UI UX. They
don't need graphics. They don't need creatives. They don't need
They don't need all of that. So they need just a machine readable API data. That's it. But shoppable video, I think that's something that people will always need, and they will always consume, and they will make decision based on that emotion that video creates.
Yes. So this is where you see the role of video, right? To create this emotional effect, obviously authenticity, and trying to trigger, purchasing decisions.
For emotion, for product categories, where emotion is important.
Yes. Interesting. So Ilya, about WallID, right? What problems, the company is really solving, and how it matters for conversion and fraud at scale?
Yeah, I think it's again talking about emotion. That's it's a very rational product and WallID solve the problem that probably existed for years, but only able to solve now. The problem is that friction that creates checkout. So at the checkout, there is a lot of friction where you need to input your personal data, payment data, and there is also part of quite a lot of fraud in there. So at the checkout, you see fraud, you see chargebacks, which is a friendly fraud. So there are lots of other, like friction and all these problems. They create $200 billion annual loss for e-commerce business. Yes. So quite substantial. And so what we identified at WallID is that via open banking data access and mechanism, we can pull that data for the customer. So we can pull that data for the customer and pre-populate it in the checkout as a personal data verified by the banks, but also the payment data. So basically, you can make a purchase with your verified ID data and payment in basically one click. And that's the idea of WallID. And it solves the problem of current merchants, that it improves their profitability 2 times. So double the margin by removing fraud, removing chargebacks, reducing payment fees, and reducing friction at the checkout.
Yes. Interesting. So during the days that you founded, WallID, you also, did corporate development at iHerb, and now you're with Corum. It seems that on a personal level, you're doing always more than 1 or 2 things, right? Together. Is it something? Yeah. Tell us more about it. How do you keep focus? How do you manage this, mentally?
I mean, some people run triathlons in their free time, but I like to start startups in my free time. So it's always starts like a hobby, because it's just interesting puzzle for me to solve. So I'm just looking this as a puzzle, and then it starts and it goes and it lives. And I could say that again because WallID is my side hustle, but it grows 20% month on month organically. And I can say that more than 20% of our customers come to us via AI search, ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude. So we spend zero on marketing. So it's all inbound growth.
Amazing. That's really, really important. And, having the ability to do so many things requires a lot of self-discipline, I guess. So, well done on this note. Ilya, do you see any trend or any technology or something or a use case that is getting you excited, in the e-commerce space?
Absolutely. So, I mean, again, my personal interest and attention, and that's where I'm currently investigating, is that look at this. We just said agentic commerce, right? So agents buy stuff for you. But so that, I think, that trend changes the way how we approach KYC. So if you talk about some important services and products, normally they perform KYC, so know your customer. But if it's agent, how you run KYC if an agent is buying service. So I think it's know your agent, and I think that's a totally greenfield area where there are maybe very few buyers or out there. So. But I think the importance of know your agent will grow, and that's personally where my personal interest is.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. I will not ask you about making a purchase in ChatGPT and all that stuff, because no one knows what's going to happen, right? I mean, it's all theories. We see things are changing so fast, right? Announcement after announcement. So, Ilya, it was really a pleasure. How people can find you, Corum, WallID? What's the best way?
Yeah, the best way is to find me on LinkedIn. And again, I'd be happy to help with information, expertise, advice, because it's for me, it's just an interesting puzzle. I'm as a founder, ex-founder, I really like to help people. And that's how I approach basically my work at Corum, is that I help other founders to exit the business with a maximum outcome for them, because I feel a lot of empathy to people who spent years and years building their business and investing their own passion, energy, lifetime, and they part of their identity into the companies they've built. And I think they deserve to get the maximum outcome out of that, all these efforts, and really be happy about that decision. And that's my, I would say, a cause that
like the higher level vision or cause, right? Beyond the day-to-day grind.
Yeah.
That's very, very nice, Ilya. Thank you so much. It was really interesting, and I'd love to have you here on the show.
Thank you, Eitan. It was a pleasure to see you.